Okay, here we go. Steve here, Ranger Kit Guy. I want to talk about this. Robbie the Robot's on the camera, we're on air. 1975 Ranger kit car. I know it doesn't look like a kit car. It's not a Lamborghini or a GT40 or a Lotus 7 Rep or a Cobra. But this is what we did in the 70s. Took a car that was the end of its life and turned it into something else. And boy, I've had some fun with this thing over the last 48 years. Anyway, get back to the story. 1974 I left school. Started my engineering apprenticeship and I wanted to build a car ready for my 17th birthday. I really wanted a Mini Marcus, but I couldn't afford one, so I dropped on this based on the 1100, 1300 ado16 stuff. I liked it. Built a tubular steel chassis and glass fibre panels which were easily modified. It still had the wheel at each corner and it was wider than the Mini, so the track was very good. Anyway, spent £405 on this in 1975, and what did I get for £405? I got the tubular steel chassis, I got a bonnet, I got a bulkhead, I got two sides, I got a back and I got an inner tub, and that was it. I did spend the extra on the hardtop, and for the hardtop I got the hardtop, two doors and a back door and some glass. I say glass because they were in trouble then. I ended up with glass one side and perspex the other. But hey ho, that's another story. So I put it together. It's not bad. It was designed by a guy, or the concept was by a guy called Eric Salmon and a guy called John Gallo, but put it together. The biggest problem with it really was that I think they were rushing to get stuff out. I mean, at £405 it wasn't cheap. You know, I was earning 15 quid a week then, and I had to borrow the money. To put it into perspective, a brand new 1100 at the end of its production run 2 years before was just under 900 quid, and this was £405. I didn't know any of my mates had spent that sort of money. Anyway, I set about it. So the kit arrived in April 75, and me and my mate Jazz started putting it together. I was already turned 17 by then, so I was a bit behind schedule. I'll run through some of what's happened in as we get to it, but the basic thing was, the first bit you fit was the bulkhead, and it didn't fit. Didn't fit at all. The inner pan you put in, and that didn't fit very well either. And the windscreen surround, the tubular steel that went round here, was capped over. Barely had a bit of metal on the end to weld. It was welded to, so I had to cut that and straighten that first. Got the bulkhead fitted, got the inside put in. So it didn't fit very well. The outer panels here, guess what? They didn't fit very well either. Lack of trimming really. The real problem I think with everything was premature ejection. Now I know it sounds something like it should be in a Carry-On film. Oh matron, premature ejection. No, I think they took them out of the moulds too quick, and they hadn't set, and they just went all over the place. But hey ho. They hadn't been trimmed very well. They'd been over trimmed in places. When you put the sides on, there wasn't sufficient to get to the bottom. The back didn't fit. There was a big gap between the back and the sides. The bonnet didn't fit. It split constantly here. Two big rubber bungees that used to hold it on. And the idea was it hinged on the front. Forget all this bit You can't even see it probably. Hold on. Whoop! There he goes. Gets a bit of a noddy on. There's Robbie. Yeah, here we go. Look, see? It came across here before. And the basic idea was there was a bit of bar across the front. And you had two long bolts in the subframe. And they went through this thing and it tilted forward. Sort of. It tilted forward, but it never fitted. Anyway, we bolted it together, as they said, and used it. It took everything, you know, straight off the car. Never modified anything to start it off with. And I kind of used it on the road. It was awful. The wind used to come in through the doors. The rain used to come in everywhere. Thing used to fill up with water. It was pretty grim, to be honest. Because you know I spent so much money on it. It was pretty grim. Yeah, it was pretty grim. But still had a lot of fun in it. Roof came off. And when we when we were trying to put it together, the roof had two bolts preset into it that were meant to hit a crossbar on the top of the bulkhead here on the windscreen surround. The bolts were in different places. They were different bolts, and when you put them through the holes or in that top rail, the roof sat on the edge. It didn't overlap the front, it actually sat on the edge and overlapped the back by about 20 or 30 mil. So it took a long while. I can't remember, it might have been the secondary body I'd done on it that I changed the roof eventually and got it right, but it still don't fit right. I still don't like it. So there's a few things I'm going to do. Final go. So the doors, yeah. Come on, Robbie, this way. Keep up. The doors. Wrong side. There we go. That's a door, folks. Didn't have this on it, just had a straight edge. The bottom didn't even match here. It's pretty grim. Don't know whether you can see that or not, but so I've done some more work to it over the years. Anyway, okay, so we put it together. I ran it for a while. It was bloody awful to drive. I could never get the suspension working right. People don't know, 1100 had hydroelastic suspension. Basically, fluid in pistons running between the front and the back on each side. And something hit here, it pushed down there, basically. Problem was this weighed about 400 kilos. The car, the donor car, weighed more than double that, just under 900 kilos. So I couldn't get the suspension to work right. I tried it low pressure, I tried it high pressure, I mucked about with the washers and everything. I tried it, and in the end I just ran it absolutely pumped up solid. It was like a go-kart. It handled brilliantly, I loved it, but it sat too high. It was fine. You were fine driving, you know, sort of whizzing about here and there, but Robbie, just from floppy again. the air used to get underneath it and it used to skate about all over the place at any decent speed. And that's when I first grafted on the spoiler. Good boy, oh boy, what a difference that made. The air didn't get underneath it and it started handling better. That was one of the first things I did, but I was still running hydroelastic suspension then. I say still running hydroelastic suspension because in the end I kind of got fed up with that as well. And yeah, bonnets like this, don't like it anymore. It's alright while I was doing sprints and hill climbs and that, so I didn't have to have the lights connected. Steady, steady. I designed these little babies. Me and a mate made them up. Steel suspension, running in the same thing with a small shock absorber. Don't even know where I got them from. Inside. And I ran it solid. I loved it like this. It was brilliant. Front was easy to design. Back was a nightmare. And the piston laid sideways in the back, like that. It's easy to find things. I ran a couple of Honda 750 springs on the back, made it up on a modified subframe. Brilliant. Problem is, the shock absorber was never designed to work on its side, so it'd work for a little bit and then it'd jam either down or up. And every shock absorber I tried would not work sideways on. I changed the subframe no end of times to take different stuff. Could not get things to work. You could go and buy some fancy ones. That's all people do now, kit car boys. Go and buy something fancy. We didn't have anything fancy to buy. It just wasn't there. So what I did was I took the subframe out completely, built some towers in the back, ran shock absorbers vertically. Alrighty, so I'll make Robbie redundant for a minute and I'll give you a little look at this. You can't see it in there like that, can you? So, see if I can show you here. This might help. See? You see that? Where the little spring is. See? Put a new tower in, run the shocks like that. No rear subframe. Worked well, has worked well, worked well for years. Back's quite compliant. Can't really like that. So yeah, down, show you a bit of the front coil. Bit dusty, I'm afraid. It's been in storage for a while. So while we're out, it's out. It's gonna get its final run. Yeah, so I don't know whether I can run this suspension like this. The roads around here are absolutely atrocious. I mean, it was great before. I loved it. It was like driving a go-kart on the road. It's fantastic, but I don't think I can now. So I might have to do something with it. I don't know what I'm going to do. So, we'll see. A couple of other things I've done in the past, especially in competition. I But balance bar on the brakes. It is only the normal setup. 2 pedals come up through the thing, split onto a balance bar, angled to the right so we can get all 3 master cylinders in. But it works extremely well. Yeah, there's a balance bar comes off there and goes into the car, so you can balance the thing. But it is only still the standard 1100 pedal box. I've got a different plate on there because I brought the steering wheel up here. The standard steering wheel used to have some problems with it stripping at the bottom, right by the rack. Didn't like taking it, especially with the negative on the front. It wasn't good. But this works really well, really well. Quick release. I've run every dashboard they've got, every single one. Morris 1100s, 1300 GT is what I've got now. Yeah, I think somebody wanted to see it. It only fixes with a couple of self tappers at the top there, and then a couple of tabs on the bottom. I used to have this here. I used to have a quick shift on here with cables running down to a mini rod change. No, it was wicked, that was. Just a tiny little shifter there was. So running off of cables, you can still see a bit of the mechanism in there, look. Down to the rod, down to a rod change. Gearbox. Right, something else people would have noticed is the front rad. Mark III Escort. You used to go down the scrappy in them days and see what you could find. You know, it didn't really matter. The original one had 2 outlets here, the early ones. This one's got one either end. So I've had to come up with a new configuration for this. I don't like where it sits, I never have done. The front of the car has this step, you see, here. And the standard 1100 doesn't. It comes straight up here. In fact, the square grills, what I call the square grills, and Riley, Wolsey, and the ones like that, have a bit more space. Never really minded, but I don't know. I'd do something, try and get some more space in the front. Makes it blooming tight for the distributor and that. I used to have it. I've got a moulded vent that deflected it up through the top of the bonnet. Not very pretty, but it worked ever so well. Just ran a couple of motorbike fans on there. Really good, really effective. I redid the bulkhead. It didn't fit. So when I rebodied it, I think it was the second time, I split it and put the scallop in there so I could get my 1.5 inch Riley 1.5 carburetors on there. Oh, they're SUs, they were magic. All brass fittings, no steel on them. Lovely carbs. Run these on this, but I said you didn't really need to put anything else on. Didn't even have any of the lights connected up when I used to do that. But, I've got to do something about the bonnet. Can't be manhandling it on and off. I'm going to have to come up with something. I really would like it to hinge up from the front completely, like a new Mini does. And the whole lot come upwards. But that would involve putting a frame in that and coming up with some way of hinging it, which ain't no problem. It's just metal. It's just metal. We can do it. There you go. That's my little Ranger. That's a proper kit car, that is. Not fancy bits. proper recycling. That's how we used to do it. Right, so I'll try and post some more stuff up. We'll have a little think about what we're going to do. If you've got any ideas, give us a shout. It'd be nice if you subscribe to the channel. That'd be really good. By all means, comment. If you don't like it, I don't mind. It is what it is. Anything I do, I'll show on film from now on. When I go about it, other people like, but I go about it. There we go. Hope you enjoyed it.